Let me tell you something that many people forget in the rush of life. The most powerful investment you can ever make is the one you make in yourself. Most of us are conditioned to look outward, to compare, to compete, to chase. We scroll through curated lives on screens and wonder if we're falling behind. We measure our worth by someone else's timeline, someone else's highlight reel. But the truth is, you will never find peace, purpose, or power in someone else's lane. You must turn inward. You must begin the real work, the kind that doesn't need applause, but builds a foundation that no one can shake. When you begin to focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a deliberate and aware way, everything begins to change. You start recognizing the patterns that hold you back. You begin to question the noise around you. You stop living reactively and start choosing with intention. That's the beginning of self-awareness. That's when life stops being something that just happens to you and starts becoming something you shape. See, people often wait for clarity to come from outside, a sign, a person, an opportunity, but clarity starts when you quiet everything else and finally listen to yourself, your instincts, your vision, your values. The world may try to tell you what success looks like, what happiness should feel like, who you ought to be, but none of that matters if you don't know who you are. You have to define that for yourself. Now, here's the truth most avoid. Self-awareness is uncomfortable at first. It requires you to be brutally honest, to sit with the parts of yourself that you'd rather ignore, the fear, the doubt, the insecurities. But when you face them, not as enemies, but as signals, you begin to understand them. And once you understand something, it no longer controls you. That's when real growth begins. You'll find that when you stop focusing on others and start focusing on yourself, your energy shifts. You reclaim the power that was scattered in 100 different directions. You realize you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to become the version of yourself that you've always felt inside, the one that's been waiting for you to pay attention. It's easy to get lost in the noise, easy to get swept up in the opinions, the trends, the expectations. But when you make a decision to tune into yourself, something magical happens. You begin to feel lighter, not because your problems disappear, but because your perspective changes. You understand that you are not your circumstances. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become in the face of it all. Everything begins with awareness. You can't change what you're not willing to see. So take the time to know yourself. Really know yourself. What makes you come alive? What makes you lose track of time? What drains you? What inspires you? When you gain that level of self-clarity, decision-making becomes easier. Boundaries become clearer. Your path becomes more visible because you're finally walking in alignment with what matters to you. And that's when things begin to fall into place. Not all at once, not without effort, but steadily, quietly, naturally. You will notice that the people who no longer align with your energy fall away. You'll stop chasing things that never fulfilled you in the first place. You'll feel more grounded, more confident, not because everything is perfect, but because you're rooted in something real. You've got to remember, you are the common denominator in everything you do. Your relationships, your goals, your finances, your peace, it all flows from you. So if you want better results in life, the only place to start is within. The world responds to who you are, not just what you do. And when who you are is aligned, focused, and aware, opportunities begin to meet you where you stand. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who chased everything. They're the ones who knew exactly what they were chasing because they first understood who they were. They took the time to listen inward before they moved outward. They built something solid inside themselves, something unshakable, and the world around them eventually caught up. So I say to you, stop searching for the answers in places that don't know your name. The direction you're looking for has always been within you. Your job is to listen, to trust, and to act from that deep, steady place that knows who you are and what you're here to do. And once you do that, you'll see everything really does start falling into place. Now, let me tell you something about focus, about the power that lies in simply deciding what deserves your attention. You see, most people go through life scattering their energy like it's unlimited, like it doesn't matter where they place it. But energy is precious. It's the currency of your results. And the truth is, whatever you give your energy to, you give life to. Whatever you concentrate on, you amplify. It becomes bigger, louder, more present in your reality. Focus is not just a mental exercise. It's a magnet. It pulls circumstances, people, and outcomes into your orbit. The question is, what are you pulling toward you? So many people are consumed by distractions. They're busy but not effective. They're reacting, not creating. They pour themselves into worrying about what others think, chasing approval, fighting battles that don't even belong to them. And then they wonder why their life feels off track, why things aren't flowing, why they keep ending up in the same cycles. It's not because they're incapable. It's because they've given their energy to everything except what actually matters. You have to understand, focus isn't just about productivity. It's about direction. It's about deciding what deserves space in your mind, your time, and your spirit. Every day you're making that choice, whether consciously or not. If you focus on problems, you invite more problems. If you focus on growth, you invite solutions. If you focus on what you lack, you feel empty. If you focus on what you can build, you feel powerful. That's how it works. When you start to take control of your focus, you start to take control of your life. You stop living in reaction to the world, and you start becoming the force that shapes your world. You start saying no, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You stop entertaining what drains you. You stop pouring into things that don't pour back. And in doing so, you create room. Room for what's right, room for what moves you forward. Now, let me say this, focus is not easy. Not today. Not in a world built on distraction. Everything is designed to steal your attention, to pull you away from your purpose and into 1,000 little loops that keep you stuck. But when you know what you're working toward, when you have that deep inner vision of who you are and where you're going, then your focus becomes your superpower. You become immune to noise. You become rooted, grounded, laser sharp. You won't need to chase people's approval. You won't need to prove yourself to anyone. You'll know that what you're building within yourself and around you is worth more than any fleeting validation. You'll be too focused on growth to be distracted by gossip, too focused on peace to be rattled by chaos, too focused on what's next to be paralyzed by what went wrong. And here's the beautiful thing. When you focus on the right things, on becoming a better version of yourself, on showing up fully, on mastering your mind and guarding your energy, the rest starts to shift. People start to notice. Opportunities come without you having to force them. The right doors open, not because you begged them to, but because you were prepared. The right people arrive, not because you chased them, but because your energy attracted them. That's the quiet power of alignment, of being so focused on what's within your control that everything outside of you begins to respond. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's just the natural law of cause and effect. Put your attention on what you want to grow and it will grow. Starve your distractions and feed your discipline, and your life will take on a whole new shape. Not overnight, not without effort, but steadily, consistently, because your focus is fueling your future. You can't build anything of value if your attention is always somewhere else. You can't become who you're meant to be if you're constantly watering someone else's garden while yours goes dry. You've got to reclaim your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. Focus is how you build momentum. It's how you turn small actions into big results. It's how you turn a scattered life into a powerful, purposeful one. So ask yourself, what have you been focusing on? Where has your energy been going? And is it getting you any closer to the life you truly want? If the answer is no, then it's time to shift. Time to protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Time to cut off what no longer serves your path and give your full attention to what does. And once you do that, once you direct your energy with intention, not emotion, everything around you begins to reflect that shift. Slowly but surely, things begin to align. The noise fades, the way clears, and everything starts falling into place. Now, here's something I want you to understand deeply. Not just hear it, but really let it sink in. Success on the outside will never last if there's chaos on the inside. You can dress it up, polish the surface, and put on a good show for the world, but if your inner world is misaligned, if your thoughts, your actions, and your beliefs are pulling in different directions, sooner or later, it all starts to fall apart. That's why real, lasting success doesn't begin with strategy or resources. It begins with alignment, inner alignment. Think of it like this. Every time you take an action that's not in harmony with your values, every time you speak one thing but feel another, you create resistance. And that resistance slows you down. It clouds your mind. It drains your energy. It makes you question yourself. But when your mind, your heart, and your habits are all moving in the same direction, there's no wasted motion. There's no second guessing. There's no inner war. You move with clarity, with conviction. And that kind of clarity, it's magnetic. When you're aligned, you don't have to chase things. Things start to meet you where you are. You don't have to force connections, manipulate outcomes, or hustle yourself into the ground trying to keep up. The right opportunities, the right relationships, the right timing, they all start to find you. Not because you're lucky, but because you've done the hard work of becoming someone who's ready, someone who's clear, someone who's whole from the inside out. See, people spend so much time trying to fix the outside. They change jobs, chase money, seek validation. But if they're not in alignment internally, those changes don't last. They might get a quick result, sure, but that satisfaction fades because deep down there's still a gap, a disconnect, and that gap can only be closed from within. When your inner world is strong, when your thoughts are disciplined, your beliefs are empowering, and your habits support your vision, life becomes smoother. Not perfect, not without challenge, but smoother. Because now you're not constantly fighting yourself. You're not making decisions that go against your values. You're not stretching yourself to please people who don't even understand your mission. You're centered, rooted, and from that place, you can build something that lasts. It's about integrity, being whole and undivided, saying what you mean and meaning what you say, taking actions that reflect your principles, not your impulses. You'll find that when you're in that kind of alignment, you start to trust yourself more. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't get thrown off by every little bump in the road. You develop a calm, steady confidence that comes from knowing you're living your truth. That's what makes you powerful. Not how loud you are, not how fast you move, but how deeply you're aligned with what you stand for. You become someone others look to, not because you're trying to be seen, but because your presence speaks for itself. There's a quiet strength in alignment. You don't need to chase recognition. You become undeniable. And let's not forget this. Alignment creates peace. You can have all the success in the world, but if you're not at peace with yourself, it won't mean a thing. It'll feel hollow, like something's missing. Because real fulfillment comes from knowing you're living in integrity with who you are. It comes from looking in the mirror and knowing that the person you see is the same one the world sees. No masks, no performance, just truth. But here's where many people get stuck. They think alignment means waiting until everything's perfect. They think they need to have it all figured out first. That's not how it works. Alignment doesn't mean having no flaws or doubts. It means being honest. It means choosing every day to come back to your center, to ask yourself, does this choice reflect the life I want to create? And if the answer is no, having the courage to change course. It's in those small, consistent choices that alignment is built, not in grand gestures, but in the way you talk to yourself, the way you treat others, the way you follow through on your promises, especially the ones you make to yourself. You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to stay true. Keep choosing the path that feels right deep in your gut, even if it's slower, even if it's quieter, because that's the path that leads to peace. That's the path that leads to fulfillment. And when you walk that path, when your inner world is in order, the external world starts to rise up and meet you. Doors open, people show up, ideas come alive, because you're no longer forcing things, you're flowing with them. You're not creating from fear, but from alignment. And that's when life stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like it was always meant to work for you. And in that moment, you realize everything really does fall into place.